Hi folks, HR Funk here with the fourth installment in my series on the DS Arms SA58 rifle, which is representing the famous FNFAL. If you didn't see the previous videos in this series, in the first episode I conducted a close-up shop review of the SA58 and talked about all of its features and functions. In the second episode I went out for a first shots video where I zeroed this rifle at a distance of 100 yards. I also set the gas system to function properly. In the last episode, I looked at the history of the FNFAL and discussed how it almost became the official battle rifle of the United States. And this time around, I want to do some more extensive shooting with this rifle. In this video, I'm going to be shooting it at some extended ranges out to a distance of 300 yards. I'm also going to be doing some more dynamic drills with this rifle, and I'm going to be shooting and moving and snap shooting and things like that to get a better sense for its handling capabilities and also its accuracy. Now, I've mentioned several times before in this series, I am new to this design, so I'm still learning it, and I'm still evaluating it as I go. So when I get to the end of this video, I'm going to talk about some of my impressions of the SA58, or maybe I should say the FAL, to this point. So let's get right into it and take a look at how things went. Fortunately, I had a pretty nice day last week, so I packed up the SA58 and a couple of different types of ammunition and headed off to the range. And the first thing that I wanted to do when I got there was that extended range shooting. So I set up at a distance of 200 yards. Now, I still had the 100-yard setting on both the front and rear sight because I wanted to see if just moving back to a distance of 200 yards was going to require a correction of either sight in order to have proper point of aim, point of impact. I didn't expect it to, really. Generally speaking, with 7.62 ammunition, there's a difference of about 2 minutes of angle in point of impact from 100 yards back to 200 yards, but I wanted to see if that was going to hold true with the FAL, or I should say the SA58. Now, I was shooting off of bags with just the iron sights. There was no magnified optic used or anything like that, and I've done a fair amount of iron sight shooting in my day, so this was not a foreign concept to me. But I did decide to fire a couple of sighters first before I fired up the camera, just to see if I was going to have to make a correction or if the sights were going to be fine where they were. And I wish I had gone ahead and started the cameras and recorded the sighters, because they ended up being pretty darn good. I'll flash up a picture of the target on the screen right now so you can look at them yourself. Windage was perfect for both of these shots, and you can see they're labeled number 1 and number 2 on the target there. So I didn't need to make any windage correction at all. When I fired the first shot, I was holding the front sight, or I should say the tip of the front sight, about in the center of the chest of the target, and you can see it hit more or less in the lower abdomen, just about where this person's belly button would be. So I raised my point of aim for the second shot, where the tip of the front sight was pretty much even with shoulder level of the target, fired that shot, and it hit dead center in the heart. So I decided that was all the more sighters I was going to need before I got into the serious shooting from that distance of 200 yards. There's a couple of things I want to mention before we go on. First off, looking at that target when I fired those sighters, particularly when I was holding the tip of the front sight right about at shoulder level, the drop for the bullet at that distance of 200 yards with a 100-yard zero was just about exactly 2 minutes of angle. So that holds true with the FAL. I didn't expect it to be different, but as I said, I just wanted to check that. Another thing I'm going to mention now, because it's going to come up periodically throughout the video, while I was shooting at the range during the course of recording the footage you're about to see, I was wearing these glasses. And the reason I was wearing them is because they sharpen the front sight considerably over just using my naked eyes. And I've got a pair of glasses that I purchased up at Camp Perry several years ago that work very, very well with aperture rear sights and post front sights. And I use them typically when I'm shooting my M1 or my M14, or nowadays, even if I'm shooting an iron sight AR-15, I'll use those glasses. Of course, on this particular day that I was trying to record footage for this video, I forgot those glasses. Now, they look a little silly on me. They're round lenses, so they make me look kind of like Harry Potter. So I was using these because I keep them in the Jeep. The problem is, shooting from the prone position, I was having a lot of difficulty keeping these things high enough that I was able to look through the rear aperture and see the front sight and get a good sight picture. And I think this caused me problems all throughout the day while I was working with the SA58, at least until I got to the more dynamic drills, because in those I'm shooting from a standing position, or at least more or less the upper portion of my body is in a standing position. So I was able to look through those sights with no problem with these glasses. However, you're going to see me different times while I'm shooting from the prone position, adjusting these glasses and moving things around and trying to get a good sight picture and all that. So I wanted to throw that in now. As I said, I think that might have caused me to throw a couple of shots during the video, and I wanted to point that out ahead of time, and I'll probably mention again when we get to those shots that I think were questionable, possibly due to the glasses. Now, let's head back out to the range, and what I'm going to be doing when we get there is shooting from that distance of 200 yards with M80 ball ammunition, and I'm just firing essentially a 3-shot group from that distance. I'm continuing to keep the tip of the front sight at shoulder level on the target, and here's how it went. So not bad at all with that M80 ball load. The 3-shot group was right about abdomen level. It was nicely centered right to left. The group measured right about 2 minutes of angle, so accuracy was looking good. All in all, I was quite happy with that performance with the SA58 from that distance of 200 yards. Now it was time to switch over to the other ammunition that I took with me, which is an IMI load. It's a 168 grain match load specifically, and I was curious to see if it was going to run okay through the SA58 or if I was going to need to make a change to the gas system. And also, of course, I wanted to see what the accuracy was going to look like with that match load out of the SA58. So let's head back out to the range and see how things went with it. Having a little bit of trouble. Three down range, bolt locked back. So 2 out of the 3 shots with that 168 grain match load were pretty good. They were closer than 2 inches to each other. They were right in that same group with the M80 ball. And then one of them was off on its own to the left. And I'm not sure what happened with that one. I wonder if that's one where those glasses were causing me a problem. I wish I'd had my other glasses with me so I could rule that out as a possibility. But no matter what, it could have just been me. Maybe I just fired a bad shot that time. Now, I was working against a battle rifle trigger on the SA58. This is not a match grade trigger or anything like that. So I was having to be absolutely certain that I was getting a good trigger squeeze every time, and I wasn't allowing the rifle to move during the course of that trigger squeeze, so maybe that happened. Not sure. In any case, like I said, 2 out of the 3 shots were really good, and that one was an anomaly. In any case, I wasn't really seeing anything at 200 yards, especially with the M80 ball, that was causing me any real concern, so I moved back to 300 yards and started out once again with the M80 ball there. And I'm going to go back in just a moment to show you how things went with it. But one of the things that I had to do when I got back to 300 yards was change the rear sight setting, and I moved it from the 200 yard setting up to the 200 meter setting up to the 300 meter setting. I did not touch the front sight at all. But in looking through the sights at that distance of 300 yards, the target was very, very difficult to see. And what I ended up doing was holding the tip of the front sight right at chin level. So the head of the target looked like it was right on the tip of the front sight, of course, right in the very center of the front sight at that tip. And it was very, very tiny at that distance. It looked smaller than a head of a pin looking at it over that front sight. So I knew going into it that was going to cause me potentially some problems trying to maintain the exact same sight picture for every single shot. This would have probably been easier if I was using an actual bullseye target that was larger and had a large black aiming section where I could have tried to make sure that I had the tip of the front sight in the exact same place every time, and it would have been easier to make sure I was doing that. In any case, I didn't. So let's go back out to the range and we'll see how that 300-yard shooting went with the M80 ball. There's 3 down range from 300 yards. So I started things off that time with a miss. Yeah. And I'm going to chalk that up to just the difficulty that I was having getting a really good sight picture at that distance of 300 yards on the target that I was using. As I said before, if I had a big black bullseye down there, that would have been easier to make sure that I had a good sight picture. In any case, the next 2 shots were pretty good. They favored the right side, actually on the target, the left side, just a little bit, but not bad enough that I was worried about it. One of them was right about at the clavicle on the left side of the target, and the other one was down more or less right below that in the lower abdomen. So good shots with the M80 ball on those 2 from 300 yards. But now I had to see if I could redeem myself a little bit after that miss with the 168 grain match load. So let's go back out now and see how things went with it. Three more shots downrange. So I think I did redeem myself a little bit with that match loading. All 3 of those shots, again, were kind of low in the abdomen level. By the way, if you didn't see where that last shot hit, here it is. So I think it's safe to say our bad guy was out of the fight with any of those 3 shots, and that last one would have kept him from procreating, and we wouldn't have to worry about any offspring causing problems. So at this point, I was feeling very good with the performance of the SA58 shooting at those extended distances. By the way, if you want to see what the view looks like from 300 yards, here's a photo so you can take a look at that. As you look at the photo, those 3 white squares that you see way down in the distance there are target boards. My target was on the one on the far right. So as you notice, you can't really see any features of the target at all. And when I was there looking through the sights, I couldn't see a whole lot more. So that gives you an idea of what the conditions were like that I was shooting in while I was trying to fire those groups. So all in all, I was, as I said, quite happy with the performance of this rifle from those extended distances. So here is an up-close look at the target I was using for that extended range shooting. And I've got the stickers all marked so I can see which shots were from which distances with which type of ammunition. These 3 shots right here were the 200-yard M80 ball shots. These stickers, the purple ones that you see, were the 200-yard 168 grain IMI match load. Moving back to 300 yards, I had that first shot miss up here, which just bugs me. These were the next 2 shots from 300 yards with the M80 ball. And the last 3 shots that I fired from 300 yards are right here. They are 1, 2, and of course 3 with that 168 grain match load. Probably what I need to do is raise my point of impact by adjusting the front sight just a little bit. I should probably zero that at 200 yards. So particularly the purple and green stickers here are more in this area as opposed to down here. That's a minor thing. I can do that in the future. But all in all, I was pretty impressed with this level of accuracy that I was getting at those extended ranges. So now I wanted to try the SA58 in some more close-up shooting, and a lot of what you're going to be seeing in the drills in this part of the video, I would normally be shooting with a tactical carbine, but I wanted to see how the full-size battle rifle, FNFAL/SA58, was going to handle in this type of shooting. I started things out at a distance of 15 yards with just snap shooting, and all I'm doing with this is coming up, and as quickly as I can get a good sight picture, I'm squeezing off shots. Here's how that went. Next up, I wanted to try a little bit of shooting from cover. My position of cover is 20 yards from the target, and as you'll see in the video, I actually start out several yards behind that. Then I move up to my position, and I'm firing 2 shots around the right side of cover, and then 2 shots over top of cover. The 2 shots from the right side are body shots. The 2 shots over top of cover are head shots. And when I was preparing to do this, I was going to use my timer so we could get an idea of how much time I was taking to fire this drill, but the battery died, so I was having one thing after another go wrong on this particular day out at the range. So this would be a little bit more dramatic if you were hearing the beep and we were keeping track of the time, but I just had to make do without it. Anyway, here's how the shooting from cover drill went. No assessment of this type is complete without a little bit of non-dominant hand shooting, which is what I'm doing next. I'm staying at that distance of 20 yards, and this is going to be similar to the snap shooting I did at the very beginning of this test, except now I'm going to be doing it with my left side, and I'm going to be sighting with my left eye. Here's how that went. For the next drill, I'm at a distance of 25 yards, and I'm just firing 3 shots from an unsupported standing position. On we go to a distance of 50 yards, and from that distance I'm going to be shooting 3 shots from a sitting position just to get an idea of how the rifle feels from something other than a standing or a prone, and here's how that went. And the last of these drills is from a distance of 100 yards. And from 100 yards, I'm going to fire 3 shots from a prone position. And I'm going to start in a semi-standing position because I wanted to assume the prone position and then fire out my 3 shots. Now those first 3 shots are going to be body shots. Then I decided to just finish out the magazine, which when I started, I had a full 20-round magazine in this rifle. So during the course of these drills, I had depleted that down to where there were only going to be 2 rounds left when I finished the prone stage, and I decided to just fire those out as headshots. Here's how that went. And of course, my very last shot was a high left miss. And this is one, folks, I am going to blame on those glasses. I know everybody out there, oh, sure, HR Funk. Yeah. When I was preparing to fire that shot, those glasses were down again low enough that I couldn't see through them and get a good sight picture. So I took that last shot just looking over the lenses. You might be able to see that in the video, I don't know. So I had a fuzzy sight picture for that. I got the best sight picture I could and squeezed off the trigger, and of course it ended up being a miss. Anyway, general thoughts about the SA58 through that more dynamic shooting. All in all, not bad. It is not the equal of an M4 or a tactical carbine because it is a heavier, longer rifle. So it's not as quick to get into positions and get shots off as I would expect to with that smaller, lighter platform if I was shooting it. But as I said, not bad. It's comfortable to shoot. The recoil is about in the same class as an M14 or an M1 or something like that. I'm firing a full power battle rifle cartridge in what I believe is an 8+ pound rifle. So that's about the recoil impulse that I would be expecting on some of those other more powerful rifles. Again, not the same as I would get with something chambered for a 5.56 or especially a 9mm or something like that, but it's about what I would expect for a full power battle rifle. One thing that continues to bug me a little bit is the safety on the SA58 because it's just, if it's in the safe position, it's a little too long for me to reach comfortably. So what I'm doing as I start those drills is turning the rifle slightly inboard so I can have my thumb on that safety, and when I start the drill I can swipe the safety off. So that's a change I've made to my shooting to be able to accommodate the SA58, and I think that's just something about the design. If your thumb is the same length as mine, you would have to get used to doing just modifying your shooting or your handling just a little bit. The rest of the controls on the rifle are perfectly fine. No problem releasing the bolt, no problem getting the magazine locked into place, no problem charging the rifle or anything like that. By the way, this rifle continues to run 100%, and I've still not cleaned it. It hasn't been cleaned since I've had it, and I don't know how many rounds I have through it at this point. I could go back and count all the shooting I've done in the videos to see, but I'm probably, I don't know, upwards of 100 rounds, something like that at this point, and I've still not cleaned it, and it's still running just fine and dandy. So that's good. Let's take a quick look now at the target I was using during those more dynamic drills, and you can see what the shot placement looked like on it. Here is that target I was using for those dynamic drills that I was just showing you. And I did not bother to mark these all with the different color stickers so I could tell you which shot hole went with which stage or anything like that. But as you can see, the body shots are mostly all nicely centered. I've got one shot over here that tried to make it out. I think that was a 100-yard shot, but I'm not certain. But all in all, not bad. For the headshots, when I was shooting from both the barricade and also from the 100-yard position when I fired out those last two shots, 3 of the 4 shots that I fired are very good. In fact, I think that one right there, the lower shot hole, was one of those 100-yard shots. That was my next to the last shot that I fired from there. And of course, that one is out there, which I'm still not happy about. But accuracy overall is looking very good in those drills. As I said, handling-wise, the handling characteristics of the SA58 or the FAL are not the same as we would expect to have with an M4 or a lighter tactical carbine. But as far as putting bullets on the target, I'm not seeing any real problem with that at all. All right, we've reached that point in the video where it's time to find out if the SA58 is a tack driver. Out at the range, I put a tack in the target, I loaded 3 rounds into the rifle, I backed off to a distance of 7 yards, and here's how it went. Oh. Just a little high on that first one. Held over just a bit too much. Yes! On shot number 2, the DSA DS58 is a tack driver. So yes, on its second shot, the DS Arms SA58 earns the coveted title of tack driver here on the HR Funk channel. And folks, I've got to tell you, I have really enjoyed working with this rifle. If you've been here through the entire series, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again to Mark from DS Arms for providing this rifle to me for this series. And this is not the last time you're going to see the SA58. DS Arms makes a railed top cover for these rifles, and they also make a battle rifle optic. And I would really like to see what this rifle can do with a magnified optic attached. So watch for that coming in the future. I guess that will be a future installment in this series, but it might not be for a while before I get that produced. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, stop by hrfunk.com and check out all the news and information there. Also, take a look at the product page. There are links to the products that I've reviewed here on the channel, and there are also discount codes listed there for those products. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.